Hey, this is Derek Jordan. Welcome to the World Fusion Show, where we bring you the leading innovators in world fusion music. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Ethan Case, who is a composer and guitarist, and a very unique guitarist, I should say. Welcome, Ethan Case, to the World Fusion Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we could finally do this.
Yeah, it's great, right? We've been trying to get together for quite a while. I wanted to start with a little bit about you and your background in music, how you got into it, what you came from to music and your family, and of course your unique playing style on the multi-neck guitar.
Yeah, well, I started on Suzuki piano when I was 5 years old. That was kind of my first formal musical instrument, and that's where you learn completely by ear. So it's always been kind of an intuitive thing for me, although I have gotten to, take lessons over the course of my life and go to Berklee College of Music and all that. But it was really always kind of about just exploring for me, and started on piano, got really interested in drum set. That was kind of my main instrument for a long time. My mom and my sister played piano, and my parents had a good record collection and took us to concerts. So I had that going. No one else in the family was like a really, obsessed musician the way I was, I guess. But yeah, I had the opportunity to play a number of instruments, drums, saxophone, picked up guitar and bass kind of at the same time, and was self-taught for a lot of years on guitar. And we grew up mostly in the country, or I should say I grew up mostly in the country. And so I didn't really have a lot of people to play with. And, but I really loved kind of band oriented music where there's layers and collaboration. And so I had to kind of find ways of doing more by myself. Basically anything I wanted to hear, I had to find a way to do it myself. And in a roundabout way, that eventually led to the acoustic double neck guitar, which is kind of sitting to the side there. It's got 18 strings and kind of looks like two guitars stuck together. And it just, has turned out to be the most intuitive way for me to play the notes that I'm hearing in my head, as weird as it looks.
Yeah. So you also went to Berklee, I think, right?
Yeah, I did 3 semesters at Berklee. It was really, really valuable. The theory and the ear training, I definitely use every day, in an intuitive way at this point. But it was actually after I left Berklee that I found the double neck, and that's when I really felt like, okay, I know what I'm actually doing now. I had a direction and a voice. And so I've kind of been, running with that ever since.
Well, it's so great, of course, when you finally find that thing after searching around. Now, I'd love you to set up and talk about this video we're going to see, which shows your double neck playing.
Yeah, so this is a piece from my most recent album called Earth Suite. This track is called Sands, and the Earth Suite project was kind of my first opportunity to really bring in a lot of other musicians. I've done a lot of solo stuff, like I mentioned, and this was a chance to finally play with some amazing veteran musicians that I've admired, like Jamie Haddad, the percussionist. This is a piece that just suited him really, really well, and he's got such a unique approach to percussion, as you'll see. And then Amir Milstein is another just amazing veteran of kind of the world music scene. He comes from Israel and also spent time in Brazil. And those 2 guys, I feel like, are kind of the stars of this song. But for me, it features the double neck as well as the fretless guitar, and also some percussion by another Berklee professor, Bertram Lehman, and my friend Jeff Willett, who's playing the hajini, which is kind of a double udu instrument.
Oh, yeah, cool. All right, well, let's go to the video right now. All right, we are back with Ian Ethan Case. So, Ian, I wanted to ask you about your inspiration in music. Who are the most influential people that you have listened to and that inspired you?
Yeah, well, as far as musicians, you know, there's Pat Metheny group is kind of for me like almost in a separate category above everything, as may be obvious in my music. I don't know, but that's a huge source of inspiration for me now and over the past years, and a lot of other just good instrumental creative music. Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, Steve Reich, the composer, Steve Reich, sorry. Everything from Handel and Vivaldi to, like Rage Against the Machine, a lot of things. But, Michael Mannering is one guy who I think sort of subconsciously did affect my trajectory a little bit. I had never seen him play until after I had kind of developed my thing with a double neck, but I had a cassette when I was very young of just his solo bass work that was produced by Will Ackerman. It was a Windham Hill piece, had Paul McCandless on it, on woodwinds, and just some really great melodies, and just that sound of like a fretless as a lead instrument is something that I've always loved. So the fretless guitar was my way to sort of have that sound in a way, even though it's a higher register.
Yeah. So why don't you help us and talk about this next video we're going to see and tell our audience about it?
Yeah. So this piece is actually the first track on the Earth Suite album. This is called The Axis, and features a great cellist who I believe you've had on the show there before, Eugene Friesen, who right. I think that was one of the concerts my parents took me to when I was like 7 years old or something. I didn't make the connection that was him until after I started playing some concerts with Eugene. We've done some fun duo stuff together and hope to do more of that. But he's playing this beautiful melody with me, and also features Amir Milstein again, Bertram Lehman on percussion, G. Maxwell Zemanovic on drums, who we got to do a couple tours with. And this is a piece that I sort of thought of as like, sort of taking in the whole planet as if you're like orbiting from outer space, and just this feeling of like an overarching view of something that's, complex, when you're kind of more zoomed into it, but zoomed out, it's almost simple in a way, in a beautiful and powerful way.
That's great. All right, let's go to the video right now. back with Ethan Case. Ian, I wanted to ask you about tours you've done, and you've got this unique thing you're doing now with touring and performing solo that you're calling Photon Symphony. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this was kind of a solution to the problem of, having recorded the Earth Suite album, which has like 12 different musicians on it from all over, come from different parts of the world. And then really wanting to present that music live in its full form, with all the different instruments, but being on more of a solo musician budget at this stage in my career, that didn't seem possible. So my wife and I, who she does all of my live sound when we do tours, as well as booking and road management and all kinds of stuff. But we kind of came up with this concept that's sort of almost like a hybrid between, I guess, like this Zoom thing that we've all gotten used to since then, but a hybrid between that and like an actual live, band on stage, where we basically filmed all the different musicians and recorded all the different musicians that we wished we could bring on the road with us, and did it in a way with the lighting and kind of angles and everything where it would feel as organic as possible when I perform with these life-size projections. So there's like the first iteration of it anyway was like 4 big panels with me on stage with these life-size projections of the other musicians, kind of lit the same way, and it seemed to work pretty well. We had no idea. It was kind of an experiment, and it was actually the most successful tour out of the 7 or something, US tours we've gotten to do. And so it was kind of fun to like be able to bring our friends with us and have that full sound. And I think it actually felt pretty organic for the audience, which is cool. So it's something I hope to really expand and build on in the future, because now I feel like, wow, I can write for as many instruments as I want and for anyone in the world, So it's going to be really fun to try and take that another step forward in the future.
It's great. I'd love to go to our next video. In this one, you are not playing the guitar. You're playing the lekimbe. Some people call it the kalimba. Tell us very quickly about this video.
Yeah, so the song starts with just me and the kalimba. And so after all that talk about the Photon Symphony, this is kind of like more the stripped down thing that I do when we're not doing that kind of format, and it's just me. But you'll hear a lot of the live looping that I do with Steph, where, I'm playing parts and they're being layered, which is at this point nothing very novel. Lots of people are doing that, but yeah, it's a piece that is played on this kind of calabash gourd kalimba from Ghana that I had custom made. And I just love, sounds that are percussive and melodic, which is kind of the connection for me with the double neck and the kalimba. They're kind of both in that family of instruments that are percussive but still have pitch to work with. And so it just starts with these loops and builds from there. And eventually there are other instruments that come in later in the song. But
Right. All right, let's go to this video right now. We are back with Ethan Case. Ian, I wanted to ask you about your philosophy of music and what your purpose is and what you see you bringing uniquely through your music to people.
Well, I always feel like, you asked earlier about like what my influences were, and I know usually people mean musicians when they talk about that. So, but I always feel like the biggest influence for me was growing up in the country and just spending a lot of time outdoors, and this whole concept or practice of kind of just going out there and seeing what's there. It's not entirely passive because, like I grew up with over 100 acres of woods behind the house. It was like owned by a logging company. I used to just go out there and go on big treks and stuff and see what was there. And so now with music, I feel like it's the same kind of thing in a way. A lot of people, I think about music or their art as like a form of self-expression. And I guess for me, it's always felt very clear to me that it's not about self-expression. It's about like trying to be a transparent window to something that's already there. So I feel like, if I have a place in it, it's to just kind of like point people to this other thing that's not me that I happen to find, like the same way as if I were, walking around in the woods and I found like a really cool stream or something and I wanted to show people. It's like, so that I feel like that's my job as a, quote unquote composer, is not really to create something new that wasn't there, but I think there's just like an infinite amount of stuff that's just already sort of part of the just existential truth that is music. There's just something to me that's very inherently, undeniably true and valid about, when you really find a musical idea. So that's kind of how I think of it. Some days you go out in the forest, so to speak, looking for stuff and you don't really find anything notable. And other days it's like, holding a teacup under a waterfall is an analogy that someone else shared with me. The teacup being like your own ability to kind of like channel whatever that source is, and there's just so much more there than you can ever contain or shine a light on. So it's that's when it's most inspiring for me, and I hope for others as well.
Yeah. And that's the name of this next tune, Teacup Waterfall. Let's go to that right now. with Ian Ethan Case, and another wonderful video and some beautiful music. Ian, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the World Fusion Show today and sharing your music with our audience. I'm sure they will be very delighted hearing your transparent window.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing what you do for so many musicians and listeners. It's so cool, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure. And of course, to have musicians of your caliber join us is really a wonderful blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Derek Jordan. Thanks for joining us today on the World Fusion Show. It's been great to have you, and we have so many fantastic shows coming on the way for you. So please tell your friends and share, our YouTube channel, our Facebook posts and everything, so we can keep spreading this great music all over the place. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Mackenzie Family Charitable Trust, Chris Pratt, Nancy Feinberg, and Ron Dans, for your generous support. And as we always say on the show, remember, think globally, listen locally, and support independent music.